Hey gang, welcome back to another video here at Joe Daddy's Garage.
Joe Daddy's Garage, it's Jerry's Garage.
Hey look, it's Jerry. You've seen him on the live stream, and I'm at his shop. So let's take a look at Jerry's project and see what he has going on. All right, so as I said, I'm not at Joe Daddy's Garage. I'm at Jerry's Garage in Tennessee, and Jerry has been working on that 66 Mustang up on his 4-post lift. So Jerry, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your car, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, I found this car. Before I get into finding the car, in 2016, I retired. So that makes me a little over 65 now.
Okay.
And I found this car in August of 2016 in Moberly, Missouri.
All right.
It was owned by a friend of the family, and we were passing through going to Yellowstone Park. And so we overnighted there and had dinner with her, and I found the car and I asked her if she wanted to sell it. And at that time it was not for sale. And then in 2017, June of 2017, she called about some stuff for scuba diving, and I asked about the car, and the car was for sale. So I went up and looked at it and bought the car. This is my first restoration of an automobile, so I didn't really know what I was getting into. And we started the restoration on it in October of 2018. So we're about ready to roll over 2 years on it. And it's pretty much done. It's going to be, it started out, my idea was to be a show car. But as I got into it more and learned more from Barry at Joe Daddy's Garage on restoration, it became pretty obvious to me the car was not going to be at the level that it needed to be for a show car. So it is now a daily driver, or will be as soon as I finish up getting the windshield in and a couple more things done, and it's just about ready.
Okay. So obviously the car is painted what color?
Wimbledon white.
Is that the original color?
Original color. It was number 103,512 off the semi-line in Dearborn, Michigan. It was shipped to Kansas City, Missouri, where a lady purchased it after her husband had passed away. The car then migrated to Moberly, Missouri, and I don't know any of the details on that. It was bought by a young high school boy, and he drove it through high school, then his sister drove it through high school, and it apparently, I believe, based on what I found on the car and what Barry's looked at it, we believe the car, or I believe the car was wrecked in the rear end, and I think also it was probably pushed into the car in front of it. And so that's kind of where that is.
Okay, so for repair work, I know we've already looked at the car, but I want to point out you replaced the rear frame rails.
Rear frame rails from the half section, and then what I did to just as a peace of mind on the front from the torque box back to probably right along in here, I cut a piece and made this piece in here
kind of like a doubler,
and then it has a piece on the bottom here that I welded in. Just there wasn't any reason to do that other than just my peace of mind.
And then the rear end is out of?
It's out of a 19 Ford Explorer four-wheel drive vehicle.
What year?
1998.
98 Ford Explorer.
And so what we had to do on that was we cut 3 inches out of the axle tube, and we used 2 right side axles to get the width in, and I had to re-weld the purchase zone. And
then from there, you also added these brackets which are supporting the shock.
Correct. This is the original shock tower off of a 1998 Ford Explorer. So I made these pieces here. These are grade 8 bolts, which probably don't need that much, but
right,
safe than sorry. And then I fabricated that for the shocks.
So that's nice. Now, along with that, you added the parking brake, and these brake calipers are from
I purchased these from Rock Auto,
Rock Auto. Okay.
and of course this was the main reason for putting this. The two reasons for the rear end is for it's a limited slip axle,
Okay.
and it's got 5-hole lugs with disc brakes.
That's right, because what this is, and sort of is a hybrid at this point,
Yes,
because it was a 6-cylinder car,
that's correct.
3-speed manual,
That's correct.
and you have converted to a 5-lug, even though you're keeping the 6-cylinder.
That's correct.
Okay. So whenever we were talking about this earlier, you had mentioned that the parking brake setup that you put on, where did you get that from?
The cables came from all the brake hardware came from Rock Auto. The cables came from CJ Pony. Kohler also makes the same conversion kit for Ford Explorer and Willwood brakes, and so that's the reason why I started searching, because I just found these a little cheaper price.
Sure.
So originally, the brake lines, the emergency brake terminated here,
Yep.
and then your open cable down to here. So when I mounted these here as a mock-up, I was within about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch off the drive shaft, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. So the kit came with this bracket, so I just duplicated that on this side, welded those in, and moved them up to here, which now gives me about 3 inches of clearance off of the drive shaft.
Sure. That's a good mod. I like that.
And then the next thing on the emergency brake system that was a bit of a challenge is and I don't know if you can see this very well, but right up in here, right there, there's a rubber inspection plug. And that's where you would normally adjust the
tension?
the tension on the drum brakes for the emergency.
Okay.
Well, the problem is you can't get a tool in there to make the adjustment.
Oh.
So I did some research and I found a video that was made by Ford Emergency Road Service. And the vehicle had a problem where the brakes were, the emergency brakes were not holding. And so the technician pulls the drum off and finds that the adjusting screw bolt,
Right.
whatever it is,
The adjuster.
the adjuster was froze up. So he replaced those, and then he had a tool that he measured the inside diameter of the disc
Of the drum part.
of the drum brake,
Right.
and it automatically set the distance to measure the
For the
brakes,
shoes.
for the shoes.
Right.
So that's how you adjust those. You have to pull
Ah.
the drum off, and you adjust them to the same dimension, and then that's how you get them set.
Okay. Now up front, you've added all new suspension.
Yes.
So these are these Scott Drake or any particular brand, or
These are Scott Drake.
the steering arms and the other arm?
All that. These, I believe these are also the arms here are also Scott Drake. So what I've done on this is a disc brake setup manufactured by a company out of Austin, Texas. And
Is that the CSRP we were talking about?
yes, that is.
Okay.
And so what I did then was I replaced this sway bar with a bit heavier sway bar.
Right, and that's definitely a Scott Drake because it has his name on it right there.
And I'm kind of a fan of Scott Drake. It seems like the quality of their parts are just a little bit better than some of the others. But this kit is a really nice kit. It comes with the braided lines on it and everything you need. It's
Right, and I put the CSRP kit on the '68 Mustang that I did, and so I'm pretty happy with what they have set up. And I see you have some, looks like stainless exhaust pipe.
yes. What I did was I went in and I found these headers. They were a closeout from a company on the internet, and I found these headers for an inline 6 for $150.
Wow.
And so I bought those and put them on. I've got mufflers that I'm going to mock up on it. And then my plans are on the exhaust, and we didn't talk about this earlier, but originally I was going to have 2 pipes running the length here. And then as the mufflers they'd probably be in this area right here.
Right.
Go over, then I was gonna do the 90-degree turn and take out 2 pipes,
Oh, I see.
which is, the original single exhaust was that way.
Right.
So what I've changed my mind on is I'm gonna bring this pipe down this way. We're gonna mount the mufflers in this area. This will come over, make a bend. and
Okay, so you have
both
two.
of the-
You'll actually have 2 mufflers on it.
Right.
Well, it looks good. Now of course, you had that drive shaft made. Did it have to be a different length?
It did, just a bit of a different length. There's a company in Nashville, Tennessee, which we're right outside of Nashville, and it's the name of his company is called Dave's Drive Shaft Shop. And so he made this shaft for me. We put this connector on here
Yeah, the flange type for the.
and to bolt up to this, and then he put a brand new U-joint and yoke there, and the charge on that was about $400.
Now you put floor pans in this as well.
I did. So the
So-
floor pans are this part of the floor pan here, and then there's another part that goes back here. So this is a 2-piece. All right, so I salvaged the tunnel, and so I cut all this out. I've welded this back in, and on both sides, it's welded solid on both sides. And I didn't butt them, I lapped them,
Right.
which I felt that would probably be easier for me to do.
Sure.
This little bit of, there's a little funny story about this. I was working on the car, and I had a floor jack, and I had this thing lifted up, and the floor jack slipped, and when it did, it punched a hole there,
Oh.
and I had to go back and patch it.
All right. Well, we've had a look underneath the car. Let's take a look at the top side.
Okay?
All right. So here we are at the front of the car, and Jerry's going to tell us some things about the front. I know he's been on the live stream. He's pointed out problems that he had with different pieces and how they didn't fit very well, and he's worked on that. But let's look at the front of the car, and you can tell me what of any interest you may want to share with us.
Sure. The grill is original. These are aftermarket. The others were a little beat up. In fact, I haven't put the new ones back on yet. I've got those in. That they will go on.
Okay.
I took this grill, and this is one of the 2 things that I haven't done to the car personally, which is this was painted black. And so I took it to a guy that does powder coating, has a big oven, and he powder coated this black for me.
Nice.
This is the original bumper that was on the car when I acquired it. These are all new replacement lights, and most of the stuff is Scott Drake, where I can find it, and all of that.
Now, we were talking about this earlier, and I've come to the conclusion, and I think Jerry's in agreement with me, that the front fenders have been replaced with aftermarket. There are some fitment issues with the headlight extensions and stuff like that, and the way they meet the cowl and the doors and stuff like that, but they're not bad. He's done a bunch of work to them to try to get them to fit better. So we know that those have been replaced, and we talked about we didn't talk about the hood, I think, on this conversation.
We did not. I think on one of the live streams, I think you mentioned that, or asked the question, was it an aftermarket hood?
Right.
And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think it is.
Let's open it up once, and maybe we can see something now we're thinking about it, because yep, see, this has the spot welds, which is a good sign. Usually when it has the spot welds, that to me is more indicative of an original hood. So
This piece was not on the car when I got it. I added that because I found it in an assembly diagram and so I put that on there, which kind of helped dress
dresses it up a little bit, yeah. So this is a 6-cylinder engine that you said this was out of a 73 Maverick?
71 Maverick.
And anything particular about the engine?
It was $200 when I got it, and it ran. So what I've done to it, which I have the original 66 block, which I did find out later was not the original engine in the car, but it's the original casting numbers for a 66 engine. and it had a problem on the head. And when I run the compression test on it after I got it home, number 6 cylinder had 0 compression, and number 1 through 5 varied from about 95 psi to 125 psi.
All right. So you're going to rebuild this engine, though.
That's correct.
And I know we talked about it earlier. We've talked about it on the live stream, where your plan is to have there's a crack in the head. You're going to try to get fixed.
I found a machinist that thinks he can weld it.
All right. And you said you're going to try to make a video of that.
I am.
That'll be great.
So when I talked to him about it, he was going to do it just working a little bit at night on it. And after I posed doing the video, what he's thinking about doing now is getting everything ready and then blocking out a weekend, and I'll come down
and film it.
And if it can be done in one day, great. If it takes 2 days, well, then I'll be there for 2 days.
Okay.
And try to do that. So
now,
this engine runs pretty good. I think it's probably going to burn a little bit of oil, but that would be normal.
That's the way it is.
So, I got excited one day and I found this at CJ Pony. No, actually I didn't find it at CJ Pony. I found it somewhere else, and got the Ford Racing oil cover on it and the chrome valve cover, and then of course I've got the headers on it.
Now, as we were looking at this earlier, we were talking about the struts that you have mounted to the cowl and to the shock towers.
Mm-hmm.
So where did those come from?
These I actually bought from CJ Pony. I believe that's right. And they're adjustable, billet aluminum, or that may not be billet aluminum, but it's all aluminum. And the reason why I changed, this is referred to, as most of you will know, as the export brace. Well, the original Ford Mustang, Maverick, other cars of this vintage that was built off this platform had a stamped export brace.
Right.
Well, when I upgraded the brakes, I put on a vacuum booster and then a dual bowl master cylinder. And with this piece, the export brace is about a little over 3 inches wide in stamped metal. It was laying right up against this clamp.
Right.
And I was concerned that vibration might cause a problem. And so I found this and bought this.
That's a nice kit. I like the way it looks. I've never seen it before, as I mentioned in the live streams.
Right. And so they sell them 2 ways. They sell this piece or these 5 pieces,
right,
with the mounting hardware, and then they sell it also with a Monte Carlo brace that comes off here and comes up back in here. Just to give you an idea on the cost of it, it's about $550 for the complete kit.
Right.
This right here, I think I paid about $275 for it.
Okay.
And so
yeah, I just like that. I think it's because a lot of people, you'll run into this with, especially trying to put in an export brace or even the original bracing. If the car has some damage or it's been tweaked, they can't get it in without modifying the holes or doing something. This actually can give you some adjustment. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to try to modify the shock tower, you could put these in, adjust them to where they've got torque on them and putting pressure on the shock towers, and maybe not have to deal with that. So
that's true. Now I will tell you that, and this is one of the things that really surprised me on this vehicle when I put the export brace on. I actually was able to get the export brace in, but it required me to take a hydraulic jack and push the shock towers apart.
Yep.
Now once I've got the original brace in there, then I guess it flexed enough that I didn't have any problem getting it off and on after.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
But that's how I got that to come back the way it's supposed to be.
Well, I want to point out, I noticed that you used one of my tips.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
The pieces of plastic underneath the fender bolts. I showed this on a 65 Mustang. I did the light blue one when I put on the fenders, that by putting a piece, and I used a antifreeze jug. I just cut out squares and punched holes in them. And so by doing that, you don't run the risk of chewing up the paint. You get the fender where you want it, and then you remove one individually and tighten it back down, and it's set. Mm-hmm. So I saw that earlier, and I was like, he's been watching my videos.
Yeah, I've got a little bit more work to do in the engine
Sure.
department. I've got to clean it up, and I've got to figure out how to do a bit of sanding so I can get all this stuff painted
Yeah.
and covered up. And what might happen on that, and I've kind of thought from just logistics, the engine that when I get it rebuilt, which will probably be, I don't know, 6 or 8 months from now, year. When I pull this engine out, I think would be a good time to go in, and what I'll probably do is take off and mask everything down to keep for any damage happening to it. And then what I'll probably do is there's a guy here in town that I know that does water blasting,
Okay. Get it stripped out with that.
and he can spray the glass
Sure.
with the water, which keeps the
heat down, right?
heat down. And I think I'll probably have him come in and blast this inside interior and then repaint it back again.
That sounds great. All right. So again, we mentioned the car is Wimbledon white, and on the inside, you've got kill mats all over, which is pretty cool. I know a lot of people use the Dynamat or whatever, but
This is, I think, fairly equivalent to the Dynamat, except this is 80 mil
right.
versus when I first found out about this stuff, I don't remember the guy's name, but the gentleman had put in 50 mil. And you can get 50 mil or 80 mil.
Right.
The difference being you get 36 square feet in the 80 mil versus 50 square feet in the 50 mil. Plus, you pay $56 for the 36 square feet, where the Dynamat is well over $100.
Really? Well, this is definitely the way to go then. And we talked about this on a live stream too. You put in the headliner twice. Learning curve. But it does look good. I know we talked about the little bubbles and different stuff that causes concern, but just getting a headliner in does a world difference. Just in feeling better about the car.
Sure. Okay. When you do one of these headliners, I've got a little bit of a bubble right here and just a little bit right here. This side, there's basically it's the way it's supposed to be. So what you do is you have to find the center of the headliner, and then you center the bows in the headliner, and then that allows you to cut off the webbing where the bow fits, because you can't pull when you go to line this up, this bow right here, I probably could have, right there, I probably could have left a little more of the webbing on, and that would have pulled that back a little bit tighter.
Right.
And all on that.
Right.
But the big thing was this side of the car, where the end of the vinyl ends there on the quarter, had about 6 inches of extra material. This side right here, this is all it had.
Oh wow.
Once I centered it.
Wow.
So it made it real difficult to pull it in.
Sure.
And so if I were doing this again, knowing what I know now, is I probably would have moved this a little bit more
To the driver's
side, just
right.
so it had more room to pull on.
Yep.
And then the way you put these things in, if you've never done one, I've seen them use paper clips
Okay.
and other type of clamps. But if you take this windsail, the old windsail that comes off, and cut it up in about 1-inch pieces and put it back on, that's how you hold it in place.
Yeah, windlace.
Windlace, yes.
Yeah. And then obviously you still have to put all the dash in and that sort of thing. But you said in the future you're going to put an I-did column in.
I am.
Okay.
I've got a new. One of the things for me, because I've got short legs, is that, and I have issues with my back, being able to lean back in a seat comfortably.
Right.
So I sat with the seat back more straight up. Well, with the original steering wheel, it's very tight getting in and out of it. And so I bought a different steering wheel, which is a little flatter. And then I found these, I think I seen it on your channel, where you were doing I found the I Did It columns before, but I didn't have any confidence in because of the name.
Right.
Well, when I seen that you had used one and spoke pretty highly of it, I thought, well, it might be worth it, because you can get different distances in here.
That's right. Different lengths.
And so that's what I want to do. And then the other mod that I'll do to it, probably at the same time, is I'll put the electric power steering on it
Ah, that'll be nice.
because it mounts right under here.
Yeah, that'll be a nice conversion. Yep. Well, it all looks good in here, Jerry.
Well, thank you.
So we can go to the back of the car and just have a look at it real quick. Now this bumper, is that what came on the car?
That was what came on the car.
All right.
So what I had to do there was on this side, right in here, I had to put spacers on it because what was happening, and I think you've seen this in the one on the live stream,
Right.
was at the top of the bumper here,
Was angled in.
it was angled in and the bottom was angled out, so
Right.
you had a really bad gap there.
Really odd shaped gap. So that looks a lot better.
And then the other thing is if you look at the alignment here
Right.
and over here, I finally got those to line up the way I wanted it to.
Sure.
And so I've got actually spacers on both sides. There's different ones. And I borrowed your trick or your process on making spacers was I can buy washers pretty cheap and stack them and just weld them.
Yeah.
And
It's pretty easy.
so in here, this is a new Valance. And then it's got a new, on the frame rails, the piece that's behind the Valance.
Right.
So it's got that new in there. The trunk, I got the gasket on. So here's a trick I found on a YouTube video, is once you get the
Trunk
trunk
lid
lid on set, and you're gonna take it off, just tape this right here and you put it right back in the exact same
Yep.
place.
Yep. That's a good idea.
And
That works. Now this gasket, what brand is this? The trunk gasket. You know, Scott Drake?
You know, Barry, I don't remember for
Okay.
sure. I bought this gasket from Kentucky, these gaskets from Kentucky Mustang.
Okay.
But I don't remember if there's.
Because there's always been a debate on these. There's one brand will fit really nice, and I've actually heard of people taking and buying the gasket for the fastback.
Right,
They would buy 2 fastback gaskets and split them
right.
because they make the trunk lid collapse and shut in smoother than these gaskets. But
Well-
yours looks like it fits pretty good.
It fits really good, but one of the things you'll notice here is when I go to shut it, it's
Yeah.
of course it's got, the nice thing is I know it's sealing because you hear that nice hard
Yeah.
solid hit.
Compression. Yeah.
Compression. And so the backup lights are new, those are Scott Drake,
Very good.
and it's got new tail lights in it, or actually the bezel and the lens.
Or new. The interior part's still original.
Originally, yes sir.
All right.
And pieces that are coming in that I just ordered either Friday night or Saturday is I'm going to get new drip rail chrome, and the reason for that is I probably inadvertently, when I took this off, not knowing what I was taking off, bent it, and it won't stay on.
Right. And that's always a challenge with those pieces.
And then I got new wheels for it that I haven't put on yet, and probably won't put those on until I get ready to get the alignment done on it. And they're the torque thrush
Right.
wheels. And then I've got to get it back in the paint booth and do a little bit more paint touch up, and then it's ready to go to a cruising and drive around.
Go get some ice cream.
Right. The other thing that I was going to mention too, this popped in my mind. These cars did not come with any kind of flow control for the heaters. So when you hook the heater up, you've got heater running or hot water running through the radiator all the time.
Right.
So what I am going to do is I haven't researched this yet, but
Control valve.
I'm going to put a control valve that's electrically actuated.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I point that out in the video I made on the vintage air setup.
I missed that.
So there's a module that I should talk about that is a electronically controlled control valve. So you may want to look that up. I think I even give the part number on it. So that may be some information for you. So
And another couple things just popped in my mind.
Sure.
These are the original shock braces for the car. They're stamped metal and they're black.
Right.
These have been media blasted and powder coated with a chrome, and then over the chrome is a clear coat. And if you look right down here, I did the same thing for the fan and the top pulley.
Oh yeah. Nice accent.
And when I get time, that's one of the things I'm going to add to the shop. And I mentioned very earlier that the plans for the shop is I'm going to add another 20 feet. It's already got the roof up, and I'm going to enclose that just so I get a little bit more room. But in that addition, I'll put my metal lathe, my bandsaw, and my sanding equipment over there. And then I'm going to put in a 4 by 6 by 4 foot deep powder coat oven.
Oh, nice.
That way I can powder coat the rear end. I can do a lot of big stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the powder coating. It just holds up a lot better.
Sure. Well, that was pretty cool. I want to thank Jerry for showing us his car, all the work he's done to it, and I'm not sure if it's going to work out, but if it does, there may be something else we're going to go take a look at that sounds pretty cool. But if not, well, that'll be the end of this video. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and all those cool things, that everybody does to help this channel grow. And if we're not going to go, I'll say until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.